This is the Platinum Podcast.
Welcome to the Platinum Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Like I said to you earlier, I'm excited to have lots of powerful, entrepreneurial, conscious women on this podcast. So really happy to have you here.
Thanks, Joe.
So let's get started. Whereabouts are you, by the way? I have actually no idea where you are.
I'm in Canada. I'm just outside of Toronto, Canada, in a little beach town. I used to live in Bali, and then I moved back to Canada. So I tried to find the area in Canada that was most like Bali.
I've got to ask, why didn't you just stay in Bali? Why?
My partner and I were desiring less of a transient life and more like building and buying a home and land. And Bali felt very transient for us.
So what you're saying is you felt like it was time to do adult stuff. That's what you mean.
Essentially.
It's time to be an adult. I'm in that place right now where Bali is amazing and it's beautiful and you want for nothing, but it's like this weird kind of virtual reality to a point, isn't it?
Totally. And we would find that because everybody's so nomadic, we would build up an amazing group of friends. And then 3 months later, we wouldn't have any friends. They would have all left. And we would be like, where did all our friends go? And that would just keep happening. So we're like, okay, we want more of a sense of permanent community.
Yeah, I totally get that. It kind of gets to that point where when everyone starts disappearing, you're like, I've got to do all this again. Like I've met so many amazing people, but it actually is quite tiring energetically, isn't it? To kind of build these connections and they go. And then when we all have businesses and we're all focusing on so many things, it's so hard to stay in touch with a large collection of people, you know?
It definitely is. And the more the years go on, the more I really value a sense of community and human connection more than just success.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a beautiful topic to start on. Let's talk a little bit about community. What kind of community are you looking for? What are you trying to do in the world?
I love open-minded humans. I love people that are down to grow. I'm sure this community of people listening right now are really ambitious humans, down to grow, want to create in life, want to get kind of weird with their own life experience and self-expression. So that tends to be the kind of person that I'm drawn to. But the more my life has gone on and the more breathwork and personal development I've done, I realize that so many of us can be so focused on success that we don't actually take that much time to just hang out with each other and like ask each other how we're doing and just being like, yo, do you want to just like have a full day of hanging out and just like, how's your life going, and having those deeper combos. So that's that's something that I've been really, really valuing lately. And it's cool to see how business success is not mutually exclusive from that. They can actually be very supportive, because the more whole we feel inside and the more connected we feel as a human, then we can just naturally flourish from there.
Yeah, and I love that. That's been a massive part of my own journey, getting really distracted with all of the wrong things for a long time. And then it's when you actually start to properly drop in with people and actually build those connections, everything else seems to flow so naturally, right?
Yeah. What was that changing point for you? Was it like an aha moment, or did it more just happen naturally?
It was an extreme mental breakdown, to be honest. I lived a life of everything was fast paced. I've been an entrepreneur since a pretty early age, since about 16, 17. I've lived by myself, doing my own thing. Got heavily involved in drugs, alcohol, that usual whirlwind, and just got involved in a lot of businesses that weren't really in alignment. They were all money orientated. That was always the goal. It was always the unhealthy side of things: status, power, control, all these things that they work for a very short amount of time until your body kind of at a certain point goes, this isn't what you're supposed to be doing. Your body has a weird way of kicking in, doesn't it? And saying,
yes, it does.
You're doing this wrong, mate. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to stop doing it. And I ended up burning out, crashing and burning quite spectacularly. Realized that I was out of integrity. I realized that I was juggling too many balls that I didn't care about. And then just decided to put everything into storage, jump on the flight to Thailand and disappear and work things out.
Good for you. Good for you for following it. And I have that same mechanism embedded in me where if something's not in alignment, it doesn't matter how good I'm doing it, how many accolades I'm getting for it, how much money it's putting in the bank. If it's not in alignment, it will just take me into a deep depression and like a really bad place mentally. And it will happen quite quickly. And for the first 10 years, I was pissed off at it. I was like, just let me be. And now I realize that it's a really beautiful realignment mechanism inside of me.
Yeah.
So I can relate to that.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well. I think you just, things just happen quicker as time goes on. I think, yeah, I used to stay in this, well, you can call it depression, I suppose, for a really extended period of time. So I just didn't have the tools or the awareness to know what was really going on. And now it still happens. I still get to places where I'm not particularly happy. I feel a bit low, but the turnaround is drastically faster. And obviously I'm just more conscious of what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah, same.
I'd love to know. So what were some of what helped you? So what was your journey like? So you had a similar journey. I assume there was a certain point where you're like, what I'm doing is not right. What happened for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's happened multiple times in my life now, which is funny how you think it's going to be the last one. And then it's like, here we are again. It's like, I thought that was just for my early 20s. This is a thing. So yeah, it happened. Like my first career was in community development and working for different nonprofit organizations. And that's what I studied. I was working in that career, quite successful at it. And then realized that it was actually quite political, that whole sphere, and it wasn't as heart-centered as I wanted it to be. So just went into a dark place and kind of lost faith in humanity and was like, wow, I've dedicated my whole career to helping humans, realizing that it's actually like a fake industry. I was like, what is there? And that question came up of like, what's the point? What's the point of living, of trying to be a heart-centered human if, it's all fake? And that question, when we talked before about depression or feeling out of alignment, that question has actually been a key question that comes up in my life is, what is the point? And at first I thought it was a very discouraging, really dark question of like, what's the point? And now I realize it's actually a tool. It's like, what is the point of living out of alignment? There isn't really a point. It just gets really old really fast. And so that was the first time that happened for me earlier in my career. I switched out my entire career, went more into personal growth and my own path, coaching, seeing clients. That was amazing. And then the same thing happened again. What was the point? Because I realized I had gone into the kind of fluff of the personal growth industry. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to pull you back to that. I can't wait to go from that one.
Yeah. So then it was the same thing again, where I was like, whoa, I want to be this heart-centered human. I want to live a fulfilled life and help other humans. But somehow I'm just like posting photos of myself drinking green smoothies on Instagram. It doesn't feel that good. What's happening? And then I came to the same question again, like, what is the freaking point of all this? Went into a dark place and then found breathwork. And breathwork was the first tool that actually helped me go deep enough inside of myself that I could understand what was happening and not just change my life experience and my life circumstances to try to solve the problem, but actually go deeper inside of myself. Because up until that point, I would just meditate. I'd be like, okay, calm your mind, find calm. But that doesn't actually go deep inside of you to heal your emotional wounds and ask the bigger questions about life. So was a coach in the fluff of the industry, found breathwork, had my mind blown open, went on this deep 6-month personal growth journey of doing breathwork every week. Brought me to a whole new level of Victoria. Like you can even see it on my Instagram, like the photos start to change where before it was like green smoothies. And then it was like, hello, I am Victoria, like here to be me in the world. Yes, exactly. Precisely. And then I was like, wow, I've never found such a mind-blowing tool. And so I became a facilitator, trained in it. And then it became my mission to bring that tool specifically to as many people as I can around the world. And now here I am living a fulfilled life. When the depression or darkness does come up, it's like you said, I'm just like, okay, something is deeply out of alignment, let's go in, let's do some breathwork sessions, find what's out of alignment, retune, and keep moving forward.
I love how easy you made that sound. It's like, not feeling good, do some breath work, problem solved, job done, on to the next issue. Like,
Definitely not.
Personal development in 2 seconds, it's done.
Just take 10 deep breaths, all life problem solved. No, definitely not. What I found is, though, it's not meant to be easy. We're very complex beings. And so the part of my mind that used to try to find a formula, you know, in the personal growth industry, it's like, what is the freaking formula? There just isn't one, because that's not how life is meant to be. It's supposed to be relatively unknown and an unfolding chaos.
That's where the peace and quiet comes, when you actually come to that realization. Yes. I had this conversation with Tilda recently. We first got together, we went into a tantra retreat. We did mushrooms together. I mean, you know Matilda, you know the journey I've been on.
I know Matilda.
No, it's been intense. I've been holding on for dear life. Like, oh my God. So it's been intense. And there was just a certain point, and we were just talking about stuff, and she was having like a quiet day, and she's been a bit like, she's like, when the fuck does this end? I've done so much work, and there's still more. There's still more layers. There's more ego deaths. There's more layers of identity to get through. They're like, what the fuck? Can somebody just come in and help? What's going on?
Yeah.
I hope you guys are enjoying this episode of the Platinum Podcast, brought to you by Platinum University, the real life school of mindset, online business, and financial independence. Platinum University teaches you everything conventional education didn't. We're helping thousands of people create multiple passive income streams that create more money, time, and freedom. We literally guide you through every step of the process with the help of our in-house experts and our powerful, like-minded community groups. To get 35% off your monthly subscription and permanently lock in the discounted price of $39.99, and also get access to all of our mindset, Forex, dropshipping, stocks, crypto, network marketing, and Airbnb content, visit the link in the description to join.
Yeah, that's the exact conversation my partner and I had last week. And then we changed our entire approach to life. We're like, okay, right. Well, of course, we'll keep trying to be better humans, use our tools, find happiness. But we're like, but actually, let's just focus the attention on making sure we're just enjoying life every day. Like, every day we want to wake up, we want to be looking at each other like, I fucking love you. We want to be like dancing around in the kitchen and like going down to the beach where we live and enjoying it, and not continuing to postpone that feeling until we finally get there.
I love that, because that's literally something I live by. There is
Yay!
no get there. It's like, I hate sitting there going, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But the reality is, I just want to have fun every day. I want to be laughing every day. I want to be smiling. And you can do good things while doing that. It took me such a long time to work that out. And I think, especially for our community, because a lot of our guys, they're just starting off as entrepreneurs. They're very early on this journey, and they have very much these big ideas of where they want to get to. And I'm tiring myself out the amount of times I say, look, you've really got to enjoy what you're doing. You have to enjoy the process. And I feel like it's one of those things that falls on deaf ears until you have a mental breakdown with your life and realize that you have to, you know? Totally. How did you come to that conclusion? How did it finally like register for you?
It's like you said, it's the life experience. It's okay. I'll come back to breathwork.
I was hoping for a shortcut.
Well, okay, here comes the shortcut. There is one. Breathwork is an experiential tool. And that is one of my favorite things about it. It shows you the experience of whatever wisdom wants to come through. So you can read something in a self-help book 35 times. You can put the affirmation on your mirror. I am worthy. But it's just...
Cue the green smoothie.
Yes, exactly. But it's not an experience. And so it's just happening at the analytical part of your mind. It's not actually an experiential learning. And then you go into a breathwork session and you start breathing. Your brainwaves change, you're going into your subconscious mind, your nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system is activating. It's showing you places where you're still stuck in fight or flight. Your limbic brain, which holds the center of your emotions and your memory, starts getting activated. Suddenly you're like, holy shit, I am worthy. Like, I am actually worthy. It's been a phrase, it's been an affirmation up until this point, but I finally feel it in my being. Like, I've been living my entire life feeling unworthy. Holy shit. So, and the same happens for the advice that you were just saying, like, you know, it's all about living in the present moment. People have that experiential insight in a breathwork session and they get it for the first time. So they don't have to go through 10 years of striving to be something they don't want to be, and then having a mental breakdown, and then coming to Joe and being like, hey Joe, got any advice for me? They can just experience it in one breathwork session. So that is a shortcut that I've found.
So what you're saying is I need to become a breathwork facilitator right now so I can help.
No, you
That's what I need to do.
You have other tools they need, because once they come out of the breathwork session, then they're like, what do I do with this? How do I live this in the everyday? Because that's a huge challenge people have with breathwork. They get the reference point, but we're creatures of habit. So then they come in back into their everyday life, and they need to listen to a bunch of your podcast episodes to get the tools to live it in their
I've just
everyday.
had a role come up for a head of marketing to like promote me as a brand, and I'd like to offer you that position. I feel like you'd fall into that really nicely.
I'm busy. I'm doing breath work for millions of humans around the world, trying to get them to have the insight in the first place. But
Too
it seems
busy
like we
opening
could
portals.
team up.
Yeah,
that's it.
Sure. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing with that. So
yeah,
you're obviously facilitating at scale. So tell me about that adventure. How did it? So you've started just doing breathwork in Bali, right?
yes.
And you've gone on that journey. You've tapped into something that's changed your life. And then obviously you thought, I need to give this to other people. What did that journey look like?
Yes. So you're exactly right. It first started with me. I was just like, wow, this is the most powerful modality I've ever experienced. So I just started doing breath work for myself every single week, either finding a workshop to go to or just doing it for myself at home. And that it was just peeling back the layers so quickly. And then I just felt so clearly in me, like, humans need to know that this tool exists, because it's so deep and powerful, and it's in them. That's the thing that blows my mind. It's in them. So often in the personal health industry, especially at that point 5 years ago, the power was placed in the healer. Like, oh, have you met this healer? Have you met that healer? They're really good. And so it was like, unless I can book a session with this renowned healer, I'm in a bad place. But with breath work, it's like, no, this is inside of you. And if I teach you how to use this, you can access it whenever you need to. So I was like, it's my mission to bring this to as many people as possible around the world. So I started touring workshops with two friends that are also breathwork facilitators, and we toured workshops around the world, just bringing it to as many people as we could. And then COVID happened, so we couldn't run workshops anymore, but it was actually a beautiful nudge to get things online. So now we run online virtual workshops, and are in the works of creating other online breathwork experiences as well. And really my hope, my mission is to get humanity to a place where we can self-heal and self-regulate with our own breath. It's like kids in a classroom, you know, the kid's having a hard time. That child knows that it can pause, tune into its own breath to self-regulate. And then, you know, say we have a loved one is going through a really hard time, going over to their house and being like, let me hold space for you. Let me guide you to use your own breath to heal right now. That's my dream for humans.
I love that, first and foremost. I would love you to talk a little bit about the level of healing that people can get from the breath, because I feel like this is something people know, at least in my community, they know they know that you can do breath work, and they just kind of liken it to meditation, but they don't really fully understand the physiological impact that it can have. And I'd love you to describe that a little bit.
Yes, it's so important, isn't it? Especially now that breathwork is trending. It's wild. Like in the past 5 years since I've started, I think it just hit me like a few months ago. I was like, whoa, like this is a thing now. Like people are talking about breathwork. It's like my dream is coming true that people know what breathwork is. However, people don't actually understand how it differs from meditation. A lot of people are just putting it in the same camp. So I'm glad that you asked that question of the profoundness of breathwork. So first of all, when I talk about breathwork, mainly what I'm talking about is using connected breathing. So there's no pause between your inhale and your exhale. And you do that for an extended period of time, at least an hour, with somebody holding space for you, which takes you into non-ordinary states of consciousness. And as I briefly mentioned before, can change your brain waves, can activate your sympathetic nervous system, which helps you to heal trauma. And science hasn't caught up with this yet, but it's starting to, that it can release DMT endogenously and other chemicals in your brain that can create very profound mystical experiences. So the really important thing that I think people can miss is understanding that breathwork isn't just about calming your mind. It isn't just about a temporary stress relief or anxiety relief. It can actually go into the core of your emotional wounds and traumatic experiences from your past and heal that completely so that you no longer have to manage that on a daily basis.
Powerful. So we're going to have to dig into that. So I've obviously done a lot of work recently, and there's a better way to explain that. So science hasn't caught up with this either, really. The level of damage and trauma that we hold in our bodies. There's all sorts of different science that touches on these things, but never really explains it that way. And what I find interesting is how ancient wisdom is now slowly being proven to be true across time. And so many people consider these concepts to be woo-woo because they haven't been proven by science yet. I prefer to take the more open-minded approach that it doesn't mean it's not true because science hasn't proven it. It actually means that science just hasn't caught up and we haven't tested it properly yet. And
Amen.
What are your thoughts on trauma being installed in the body?
I am not a trained physician, so I have no professional, I have no agenda to convince people, that our issues are in our tissues and, read the science about it. But what I do have is now thousands of testimonials from my clients letting me know that they have healed emotional trauma and physical trauma from their past that is no longer a present part of their reality. So I've had people that have had extremely tumultuous childhoods that have done breath work with me and that are like, wow, Victoria, that's just gone from my life. Like it's healed, it's gone. And then I have people that have had physical injuries, like somebody had a rock climbing accident and they had a physical injury, and using breath work, that physical trauma is now healed, even though they spent years trying to heal it in other ways. So I have thousands of testimonials of people saying that this is working for them. And to me, the scientists, the doctors, it's up to them to start doing the research and catch up with it. And I'm just going to be over here continuing to do the work.
I'm going to be over here seeing it happen. When you decide to catch up, that's up to you guys.
Exactly.
I want to touch on something interesting there because you spoke briefly about the charity industry and how it kind of destroyed your perception of that kind of heartfelt business. I think this is a very easy place to then go into the medical industry and see some parallels there. So I think before we go on to the medical, I actually want to get into the charity side of things. Can you tell me a little bit about what you saw when you were working in that space?
The first thing I'll say is there are a lot of good intentions. That's the first thing I want to say. It's just to not discourage people that are like, oh my gosh, I make a donation every month to this charity. Should I stop? Is it all evil? Or are we all going to shit? It's like, no, there are a lot of good intentions in the nonprofit world. One thing I saw is that because the projects are donor based and each donor has their own desire, a lot of projects end up losing their original reason why they were doing something and their original values-driven mission, and end up just doing a bunch of fragmented things to make their donors happy. And so that's the first thing that I saw. The second thing I saw was it's become an industry with careers, right? So it's like, it's a career to work in the nonprofit industry. So therefore people become very career driven. I need to reach my next career milestone, so I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And so therefore it's no longer focused on the heart of the project. It's more just individual humans trying to better their own LinkedIn profile. And then the third thing that I saw is it doesn't matter how much money you throw at something, that won't solve a social problem. I was in charge of donating millions of dollars to specific social problems, and the needle barely moved on it. And that's where I went like, okay, it's not just a distribution of resources that needs to happen. Like, we have a sickness as humans that makes us, this is my theory, that makes us focus on the wrong things, not look out for each other, not want to be whole in ourselves and help others to be whole. And that's where the social challenges are coming up, because the systems are created by individuals. That's what I'll say.
I love that. I see. So, because that's pretty much the view that you beautifully articulated there, without going, it's all a pile of shit. Very well done. But I feel like that's exactly what happens in governments. I feel that's exactly what happens in the medical industry. I feel like it starts off coming from a place of science and investigation and helping people. And, whether if it's government, then it's distributing resources. And then if it's the medical industry, it's like getting people well. Charity, it's like donating, helping people, all these different causes. But then there becomes a certain point where it becomes like corporation level. And as soon as it becomes corporation level, you've got shareholders who don't have the same values and the same intentions. And then there's a different motivating factor that propels these things forward. And it's like, my question always comes to, how the fuck do you do these things at scale?
Yeah.
And my answer to that is always keep it community sized, because then at least the people involved in the projects are the people that are heartfelt and that actually care about it. If I knew how to solve this problem, I would be running the planet. But how the hell do you do these things at scale and keep the intentions pure?
Yeah. So 2 things there for me. One is, like you just very powerfully said, why do we need to scale everything? What's the human obsession with scaling? I read this amazing thing once that was like, say a pizza joint pops up in town. Let's say it's vegan pizza. I'm vegan, support the planet, support the animals. A vegan joint pops up in town. It does really well. Why does that pizza joint feel the need to franchise and replicate itself and become a national pizza joint, rather than just having the pizza joint and then telling the town next door, yo, I've got this amazing pizza joint. If anybody wants to start a pizza joint like mine, you can do it. And then the whole world will just have its own versions of pizza joints. Like, what is the moment where that pizza joint is like, I need to become multinational? And why? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, like you said, around the human motive. So I think it's before we even talk about scaling, it's and this is my mission, it's healing the individual so that our motives do stay aligned. Because I've even seen it with myself. I can take the most pure-hearted intention and start to create it into something like a business or a project. And then if my personal insecurities start to come up, any part of myself that I haven't healed, any part of myself that doesn't feel good enough, that feels like it needs to be on the cover of some magazine or some top 40 under 40, that part of me will come out. It will squeeze the pure intentions out of this and start to take it in another direction. And I can watch it happening. And I'm like, why am I doing this? So I think it's a matter of, why do we need to scale things? And also, can we just look at ourselves and heal ourselves so that we don't have these emotional wounds that start to taint our motivations?
I think there's two things that I want to pick up on that. The first one is when you describe us as replicating, going corporate, the first thing that jumps in my head is we're a virus. We are absolutely a virus spreading. That's why we want to do that.
Yep.
That was the first thing that kind of came to my mind. The second thing is all I'm hearing is that I'm not enough. That's what I feel like it stems from. It is a feeling of not being enough in yourself, right? Because that's what leads you to want to grow and spread out, because you feel like just being you and being in your own lane isn't sufficient. You need to do something more. Yep.
I feel you in that. And I feel like part of what you and I are doing right now is healing the virus inside of ourselves and trying to help others to do that as well.
Totally. I couldn't agree with that more. I feel, and the first stage of not spreading a virus is getting well yourself, because if you're sick, you're just going to keep on going and spreading it out, right?
There you go.
Shit.
Yeah.
The problem's bigger than I thought. Corona is not the issue right now. We're the issue.
Well, very truly, I do feel that way. And maybe it's bigger than we thought, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's more simple than we thought. And I do want to say one thing here, because I feel like when we start talking about this, some people might be like, this is like too existential, and this is too intangible. Like I just want to earn income so that I can buy that cool outfit and have fun life experiences. Like, I don't want to talk about all this stuff. And one thing I think is really important to say is we can be successful and live really cool lives and earn great money and have really cool life experiences. It just comes from a different place inside of us. It comes from a desire for creative expression. It comes from a desire to be like, what happened if I would bring this to life? And what would happen if I like connected and collaborated with these awesome humans? So we can still have the end goal. It's just, it comes from a different place inside of us.
Yeah, totally. That's just something I'm always trying to push at Platinum University, because we get so many people that are purely interested in money, because they obviously, that's what we offer. We offer online business models, and we teach people how to invest. We teach people about crypto, and all of these things are, for me, are different vehicles in order to get freedom, but they're just one piece of the puzzle. The biggest piece is totally within yourself. Yeah. But that's a little bit more of an uphill battle, because when you're worrying about rent and bills, it's really hard to sit there and listen to someone saying, oh yeah, you just need to meditate more. Oh, you just need to do some breath work. And you're like, no, I need to pay my fucking electric bill. Otherwise I'm going to be sat here in the dark. And that's it. The whole ethos of Platinum is that, yes, you do need to earn money. Yes, this is a very real part of what we're going through, but you have to be doing that inner work along the way, because that is ultimately will get you to the destination, if that is a place, but it will get you to a happier place on a daily basis, right?
Love that. Love the work that you're doing, Joe. And I think that's super important, because a lot of people in the personal growth space will look down on people trying to earn an income. And it's like, yo, no judgment. Everybody's just doing the best they can. Let's try to show people there's another way, just by embodying it. And then they'll be like, whoa, you're onto something. Like, you know, that's the best, is instead of preaching at people, you should do it this way, you shouldn't do that way, just being like, people are gonna be like, whoa, that Joe guy is onto something, because he looks genuinely happy. and he also earns money for himself. So like, I'm going to start moving in that direction. So I love that.
Marketing me again. You are, aren't you? You're really slipping into this job role. Really.
Fine.
Really
I'll point the spotlight on me. That Victoria woman, she looks genuinely happy and stoked about life. What is she on to?
You have to be happy. Even her dress is happy. Oh, look at it. Look.
It is, and it's expressing itself openly. Its throat chakra is wide open.
What's it telling me? I don't even know. Tell me what the dress is saying.
Only you can know, Joe.
I'm not getting the message. I'm not getting it. I need to do some more breath work. That's what it is.
We do. 10 deep breaths. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I absolutely. I love your message. I love where you're at,
Yeah.
and I absolutely love what you're doing. And it's really nice to hear it just coming from such a clear place, because there's real no distraction when I hear you talk about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. It's very simple, like in a really refreshing way. There's none of the additional fluff that's often the case. Like, I've probably got a load of additional fluff, but when I'm listening to you speak, it's just very, very clear, and I really love that about it.
What kind of fluff do you find comes up? What does fluff mean to you? That's something I'm curious about.
Very good question. I feel like it's very easy to go in so many different directions with like self-development and helping people and all these different things, which is the space that we're in. But I find that the real power is when you can simplify things into like the smallest unit of measurement, if you like. And the way you talk about it is just so simple. It's just leading from your heart, not aligned, keep going that way. Not aligned, keep going that way. And I think that makes it really, really simple. Because a conversation I've had times in my life when I had really shit goals, money, all the usual stuff. And when I'd be following these things, I'd create all sorts of mess because in my life and in general, because I'm trying to chase something that's really not aligned. The simple hack to solving all the problems is actually just to act from a place of pure integrity, act from a place of morality, be heartfelt and correct in your intent, and then all of the other bullshit disappears. Everything vanishes once you sort that piece out. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. It's truth.
Yeah, and I just feel so strongly about that, because when I got myself to that point of clarity, it was just like, oh fucking hell, this is so much easier than all this bullshit that I've been creating around it. And I really I think when people come at it the way you do with such a clear voice, I think it's really powerful, because it sounds so simple, but it's also actionable, especially when you give it in the context of breath work. So back to breath work.
Yes.
I would love. Can you tell me a little bit about the type of breath work that you do? Because I know there's loads of different types. What is it that you teach specifically, if there is only one?
Yeah. So the type I teach, I had mentioned it earlier, is conscious connected breathing. Yep. So breathing without pause between your inhale and your exhale. And that's for the 1 hour journey.
Yeah.
So that's the crux of what I serve is that connected breathing, because that's what takes people into those really profound places. And I feel quite strongly about that, because there are some breathwork apps popping up now that it's just, it's like take 10 deep breaths. And that's amazing. That's its own mission, but that's separate from taking people into the gnarly places where the deep pain is actually allowed to surface. So that's the type of breath work that I practice, is conscious connected breathing, taking people on those deep journeys. And I also find it important for people to have a regular practice. For example, every morning, connecting into yourself and taking a few connected breaths to realign, because there's a lot of noise in the world. There's a lot of noise in our own minds. And it's really important to just keep coming back to that place that you described so beautifully just then. You're like, what's my integrity saying today? What feels good for me today? And how can I follow that and let all the other bullshit fall away? So I practice the 1 hour breathing journeys. And then I also support my clients to develop some sort of daily breathing practice to continue to check in.
Love that. And I think when you say like the daily breathing practice, do you do anything? Are you trying to excite the nervous system? Are you trying to bring it back down? Or does it vary based on?
it depends based on what the person needs, but I always say just start with 30 connected breaths.
Yeah.
Letting go of like, are we exciting the nervous system, calming it down? It's like, take those 30 connected breaths, because that will open the doorway to your body's natural intelligence. And then if your body wants, so say I say, okay, Joe, take 30 connected breaths. Once you start taking them, if your body's in a place where it wants to activate, you will naturally make those breaths very activated breaths. If I say, Joe, take 30 connected breaths, and you're in a place of calm where your body actually wants more restoration, you'll take very calm breaths. And your body will give yourself what it needs.
That's a nice simple explanation if ever I've heard one. It's how your body actually knows what it wants.
Isn't it the best?
And that's complete opposite what we're all taught. Ironically, that's why the mission's so powerful.
Yeah,
so
it's true. And again, that's one of the beauties of breathwork, is that when I'm not a healer, I love that. I love that I'm not a healer. I love that I'm not one of those people where it's like, you must go see Victoria. When she places her hands on you, everything has changed. Like, for the first part of my personal growth journey, I had trouble with that, where I was like, dang, I don't have any of the magic skills. But now that's actually my greatest gift, because in the breathwork session, my job is to make somebody feel super safe and supported. And I can do that just by being very human and real with them. Then they use the breathwork, and then their body's natural intelligence takes over, as you said. And then they get to have that experience where they're like, I just did that myself. That was my body doing that. And I'm like, yes, it was.
And there's not as much money in that. So I feel like the medical industry doesn't like that as much. That's my feeling on it.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah. That, yes, Joe. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. You're like, what rabbit hole are you trying to send me on here,
No.
Joe?
It's true. It's true. I have to always bring myself back to a hopeful place, or else I go like, oh, fuck. So I'm like, yes, there isn't money in it. So the current medical industry doesn't see its value, but maybe if each of the people that run the medical industry started doing breath work, they might have a change of heart.
I'd be inclined to agree with you on that one. So what are your next steps? What are you doing, or you're going to be doing in the future to spread this to more people? I don't want to say, do I say at scale? Are we trying to do it at scale, or are we not trying to do it at scale? I feel like with this one we are, as long as it's not a corporate entity.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. It's like, I'm down to scale it, but it doesn't all have to redirect back to Victoria Bauman. It's not like I will scale this and every single person that learns about breathwork will somehow benefit my bank account.
I was getting ready for all hail Victoria. I was looking forward to that moment.
So yeah, definitely scaling it as a well-known tool for all humans. You asked what's my next step. So I'm currently building and creating something that I won't share too much on yet, but it's like we've been talking about. It's cutting away all of the fluff. It's cutting away anything that's new agey, because I've had to break up with the new age industry. Actually, I was like, whoa, like that's a whole industry in itself. So it's like cutting that away, actually cutting away the personal brand, because I feel like that comes into play as well, where it's like my personal brand as Victoria is different from the breathwork mission I'm on, because I'm not a brand, I'm just a human being, and I'm going to change day by day. So how can we like extricate Victoria as a personal brand from this, and just let this tool in its purity be spread to as many people as possible. So I've got something in the works.
That's amazing.
Stay tuned, people.
They will. I would love for you to tell people where they can find you, where they can keep up to date with everything that you're doing. I think what you're providing people, like I said before, comes from a really pure, really powerful place. And I know that what you're saying is going to resonate with a lot of people, and I think you make it very accessible. So I'd love for you to tell people where they can find you.
You can find me at victoriabauman.com, and then I'm most active on social media on Instagram at Victoria_Bauman.
Perfect. Well,
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming on, Victoria. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. That was really fun. I appreciate your authenticity so much and love the mission that you're on.
I love it. Thank you.
This is the Platinum Podcast.